Well, hello there, friends. It's good to have you here in my living room. We're just hanging out, doing some algebra, having some fun. Actually, algebra is usually not a whole lot of fun, but it is fun when we can actually start to master it and start to understand it. It almost can get a little bit of fun. So that's really my goal here. Is I want to help you to get some mastery over this, build your confidence, and hey, the bottom line, help you earn some more money, right? So we are in part 4, and we've learned how to graph linear equations. And in this video, we're going to learn how to write equations when given a graph or when we're given two sets of ordered pairs. All right, so that's kind of where we're going in this video. Okay, I can almost guarantee you're going to see some of this on the GED or the HiSET or whatever test you're taking. Right? So, okay, let's start off by looking at this graph right here. I don't know how well you can see my grid line, my coordinate grid here, but that pink line represents my graph. And here's basically the question. Write an equation given the graph, I'll just say below, or to the right. Okay? So those are your instructions. All I do is give you a graph, and I say, hey, write an equation. Well, if you remember, what are the two ingredients that I need to write an equation? First, maybe I should ask this. What is the slope-intercept form? You remember? Y equals mx plus b. This is called the slope-intercept form. All right? Because it's a form of the equation giving us the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, and if you remember, again, this right here was our slope. And B was our y-intercept. Okay, we talked about that in previous videos. Okay, so what are the two things that I need to make an equation? I already have my x and y coordinates, right? What do I need? Well, I need a slope and I need a y-intercept. Can I derive that from my graph? We can. Okay, first off, I know my y-intercept. Do you know the y-intercept of that equation? The y-intercept would be right there, because that's where the graph crosses the y-axis, right? That's the y-axis. So at what point does it do that? Well, it's at 0, 2. All right, my y value is 2. So I know that I already got half of my equation. There it is. Y equals mx plus 2, because I know my y-intercept. All right, now we got to figure out the slope. Okay. Well, if you remember, slope is rise over run. Right? So, here's how you do it. You find any 2 points, and you figure out what's your rise and what's your run in between those 2 points. All right, so let's go. And by the way, you'll notice that some of my points don't land on the line. That's because I drew in my grid lines by hand, so it's not really accurate. Right? On yours, it will be accurate. Okay, so I need to just find 2 points. Okay, let's go ahead and choose, I don't know, let's try this one and this one. How about that? Again, it doesn't matter which 2 you choose. Here's my advice, choose 2 that are close together. Then you won't have to do any reducing. All right, so let's go ahead and see, what is my rise and what's my run? Okay, so let's go from here. Kind of drew these circles so big it's kind of even hard to see. what you can actually do is you can draw yourself a little right triangle. All right? So what is my rise from this point to this point? Well, my rise, I had to go up 1, right? Let me get the right color here. I had to go up 1, which is a positive 1, right? And I had to go to the left 2. See that? 1, 2. And that's a negative 2. So my slope then would be 1 over negative 2, or negative 1 over 2, or just negative 1/2. Okay, so I know that my equation then would be y equals, my slope is negative 1/2 x plus 2. There's my equation. Now you might be asking, well, what if I chose 2 different points? Well, here's the deal. This is a straight line. The slope is going to be constant throughout that entire line, correct? So it shouldn't matter where I choose my points. In fact, I'll prove it. Okay, let's choose this point and this point. Okay, in fact, I'll use a different color. How about that? I'm going to use purple. Let's do those 2 points. What's my rise and what's my run? Well, my rise, again, I can just make myself a right triangle, right? My rise from this point is 1, 2, 3, 4. And my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Negative 8. So wouldn't that just be 4 over negative 8? And isn't that the same as negative 1/2? It is. Now you might be asking another question. Well, why did you start at this point? What if you started at this point? Okay, we can do that too. Let's start at this point. We'll go this way. So now my triangle is here, right? Okay, what's my rise? My rise is 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Right? And how many to the right? Well, 8 to the right. Positive 8. Aren't those the equivalent? They are. So it doesn't really matter which points you choose and which direction you choose. Just pick 2 and go for it. Figure out your rise and figure out your run. You got it. All right? So that's actually not too bad, finding the equation when you're given a graph. Okay? Let me show you something that's a little bit tougher. And this is when we're given just 2 sets of ordered pairs. What happens when we have 2 sets of ordered pairs? So, given the ordered pairs I'm going to give you 1, negative 2, and negative 3, negative 4. All right, those are my 2 ordered pairs. And I say, hey, write an equation. I'm not giving you a graph. I'm not giving you the slope. I'm not giving you the y-intercept. All I'm giving you is 2 ordered pairs. Say, hey, find the equation. Is that possible? It is possible. All right, I want you to think about this. First, well, last time we figured out, you found the y-intercept first, correct? Do I have a y-intercept up there? Someone might say, well, it's negative 2. Or someone might say, it's negative 4. And I would say, it's neither. Because remember, to be a y-intercept, like right there, x has to be 0. So if this was a 0 right here, then the y-intercept would be -4. Or if this 1 was a 0, then the y-intercept would be -2. But they don't give us the y-intercept, and they don't give us the slope. So we need to find the slope, in this case, first. All right? So slope, remember, is rise over run. Now remember I told you that the rise is the same thing as the change in y over the change in x? All that means is, say for example, I'm 6 feet tall and you're 5 feet tall. All right? And I would say, hey, what's the rise from the top of your head to the top of my head? What's the rise? It's 1, right? How did you do that? Well, you just subtracted 6 minus 5. So anytime you want to find the difference between 2 points, you just subtract. Okay? So basically, if I'm looking at, let's just choose these 2 points. Well, this is not the right graph, so I can't use that. So basically, if you're given 2 points, right? For example, this is 2 points, correct? 2 ordered pairs. Let's just write it let's just write it up here. 1, -2 is right here, right? And -3, -4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? There is I don't have my ruler handy, so I just have to freehand it the best I can. There's my line. All right, and to keep us from getting distracted by this, let's just erase that up there. There's my line. Okay, notice that this line is this point is -3, -4, and this point is 1, -2. Right? Now I've already learned how to find the slope when I'm given a graph. Well, there's the graph. But I want you to notice something. I want you to notice, I don't know if you can even really see my lines. The grid lines are so bad here. All right? I want you to notice that this distance right here from here to here is 2. Do you see that? 1, 2. Well, can't I get that from subtracting these 2 points right here? -4 minus -2. All right, -4 minus a -2. What is -4 minus a -2? Well, when you have 2 negatives back to back, you make them positive. Basically, they're being multiplied by each other. -4 plus 2 is -2, so I have a difference of 2. Okay? So again, anytime I want to find the difference between 2 points, whether it be their height or the distance, I just subtract the 2 coordinates. Okay? And that's where we come up with this famous equation, or this famous formula. Right? All this is saying is that, hey, the change in y, which is rise, is just the difference between my 2 y coordinates over the difference between my 2 x coordinates. This is called the point slope formula. You want to know why it's called that? Because it's a formula that gives us the slope when we're given 2 points. That's it. And there it is. That's the point slope formula. A very useful formula to remember. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and use this formula with our numbers here. Okay? So y2 minus y1. So sometimes it's helpful to do this. This 1 is an x, correct? So I'm going to put an x there. And since this one comes first, I'm going to go ahead and put that as x1. This coordinate is a y. And it's my first y, So I'm going to call it y1. This is x, and it's my second x, so I'm going to call it x2. That is a y coordinate, and it's my second y coordinate, so I'm going to call it y2. That's what these little numbers down here mean, subscripts. All right, so let's go ahead and put in our numbers. Okay, y2, what's y2? y2, it kind of looks like a 1/2, doesn't it? y2 is -4. Okay, -4 minus, what's my y1? -2. Now, here's the mistake that a lot of people make. They just go like that, right? -4, they see -4 minus 2, and they put it like that. That's wrong, though, and here's why. Because you have -4, and then you have a minus. Where does that minus come from? Well, it comes from the formula, right? So it's always going to be subtraction. And then you have y1, which is -2. You see that? y2 minus y1. So just be careful on these. All right? So, and then we have, this is slope, correct? Then we have x2. Well, what's x2? x2 is -3 minus, that's from the formula, -1. All right. Now, what's -4 minus a -2? Well, that's the opposite of 2, correct? What's the opposite of -2? +2. So whenever you see these negatives back to back like that, you just make them both positive. Okay, so I get -4 plus 2, which is -2 over -3 minus 1. Signs are the same, so I add them and keep the sign. It's -4. Okay, I can simplify that. Okay, my greatest common factor is 2. All right, so if I divide by 2, I get negative is 1, -1, over -4 divided by 2 is -2, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so that's actually 1/2. Okay? Sorry, it's a little bit messy. All right? So just kind of backtracking, I used my Pointslope formula, plugged in my numbers. I went ahead and evaluated those numbers and simplified. Okay, so I get a slope equal to 1/2. Okay, but the question is, hey, write an equation. We still need the y-intercept. How do I find that? Well, remember the slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Remember that? Okay, we know the slope now, don't we? So we could, the slope is what? +1/2. Okay. Do we know y? And do we know x? Well, look at here. They gave us, isn't 1 -2? Isn't that a solution to our equation? So is this, correct? -3 negative. That is a solution to the equation too. So we could use either one of these to plug in for my y and my x. But here's the trick. Choose the one that has the easier numbers. I think that one has the easier numbers. 1 -2. Right? So here's what I'm going to do. For x, I'm going to substitute a 1. For y, I'm going to substitute a -2. So here we go. So y, what's y? Negative 2. And what's x? Positive 1. And then I got plus b. I don't know what b is, right? That's my y-intercept. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So here I got half of 1. Okay, half of 1 is just a half, correct? So I got negative 2 equals 1/2 plus b. Okay. Now I can solve for b. Okay, to solve for b, I just need to get rid of that 1/2, don't I? And b will be all by himself. So I go, and I'm going to subtract 1/2 to both sides. That's going to cancel. And that's going to leave me with b all by itself over here. So I get b equals, what's negative 2 minus 1/2? Well, my signs are the same, correct? So if they're the same, I add. So what's 2 plus 1/2? It's 2.5. And it's a negative 2.5. So b equals negative 2 and 1/2. You could write it as negative 2.5 if you want, or even as an improper fraction. All right? So there's b. Remember the two ingredients that I need? I need slope, and I need the y-intercept. And I had to do a lot of work for these, didn't I? So now I'm ready to write my equation. Okay? So y equals m, well, my m is 1/2, x, and then plus b, well b is what? Negative 2.5, so minus 2.5. And there's my equation. A lot of work to do that. Right? Once you get the hang of how to use the point-slope formula, it's actually not too bad. All right? Make sure you get some practice in, because they're going to ask you some of these on various tests. All right? So I hope that was helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and you'll get all my new videos. And don't forget, click in the link below for the notes. All right? Well, until next time, my friends, may God richly bless you.